The following program contains views that are not those of WVTC, iNetworks Communications, their subsidiaries, affiliates, or financial supporters.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Praise the Lord, saints. How are you all today? Thank you for joining us on another Saturday morning. I am Bishop Sherman Henderson, the senior pastor of Revival in the Land Missionary Baptist Church, located at 9134 South on Cottage Grove.
And good morning. My name is Marquise Holyfield, evangelist at Revival in the Land Missionary Baptist Church. We're so excited to have you with us here with RIL Inspiration Radio here at WVTC. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Stellar Award, two times.
Oh yeah, two times. Stellar Award-winning radio station.
This ministry that Pastor Morris has here is really a blessing. And not only can you join us, but you can join some of the other shows that's on. You can download the app and follow us on WVTC. So today we got
those of you who watch us every week know normally we start off with like topics of the week, what's going on, but we got a fun-filled show, so we're going to jump into our relationship conversation because we got a two-parter. Then we'll do our spiritual conversation, and then we'll end with sports because we won't be able to talk about this week in the news because the relationship conversation is just going to be real good, y'all, real good.
Did anything in the news happen notable that you can think of that happened?
Well, I mean, one thing I wanted to point out is that, so they've said for the last 3 years, but they're saying for the last 10 years, in February, we've had tornadoes. Mm-hmm. So you all know, and it's on the same day, y'all.
Really?
Yeah, so every February 27th, we have some type of tornadoes. At least for the last 3 years, we've had tornadoes. So last year on February 27, 2023, there were 3. This year on February 2027, there were 11.
Oh, wow.
And then the year before that, I think there were like 2, and then there were like 1. So they're just saying, being mindful of like the tornado piece coming back and our weather shifting and changing. And we know it's climate change. People who, we know that some people don't believe in climate changes, but we know, obviously, we've been having 60-degree weather in February.
But you know what? I love it.
Yes.
If this is global warming, I'm going out to buy some aerosol cans. And I'm going to start using aerosol deodorant because I love 60-degree in Chicago in the winter. It's beautiful outside.
Yeah, it's just lows that our summer stay summer. That's
yeah, I don't want it to be like 115. It'd be like 115. I'd be like, oh my God, this global warming is killing me.
Exactly. So
wow. Did anything happen? So the storm, there was a big storm that happened.
Yeah, so we had really bad tornadoes across Chicagoland and Chicagoland suburbs as well. It was Cook Lake County as well as in Northwest Indiana. So I know Mundelein got hit really bad. Mm-hmm. There were a few people that was displaced from their homes. There were other suburbs that were hit really bad with property damage and so forth, and roofs being torn off. So, we had quite a few tornadoes that hit. They were mostly EF zeros and EF ones, but those still are high winds. Those are anywhere between like 30, 40 to 50 winds. So
everybody's safe out there. Can't think of anything else that happened noteworthy in the news, probably because I didn't watch the news this week. I've been guilty of not watching news because, when you watch too much news, you start to get into the news cycle. And I think that's what contribute to people going into their own bubbles, right?
Yeah. I mean,
the same news.
I'm trying to think outside of just a few things that's just been going on, like we've seen the high crime and so forth that's happening. I know recently we saw that in the Beverly area, there was a smash and grab right there on 95th and Bale. There's a popular shop, 147. Yeah. They rammed the car in there so they could steal clothes. And the car was totaled. So people on the the Ring app was like, okay.
Right. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Frank.
Hey, I just want to say that if you're not doing anything, and tomorrow, not if you're not doing anything, but we want to always extend a welcome for you to come out and join us at 11 a.m. Tomorrow is the first Sunday, and if you would like to start the first Sunday of March out on a good tune, you can meet us at 9134 South on Cottage Grove. We promise to have an inspirational word for you there.
Yes, and a good teaching is what, Bishop brings a word that will uplift your spirit, but also teaching you something. He always teases us how when we have guest pastors come and speak, before they can't finish the scripture because the church has finished the scripture before they have. But that's good Bible teaching, though. Good Bible teaching.
Bible teaching church. So this relationship topic, which is a fiery one. Woo.
Yeah, so it's a two-parter. We're gonna talk about the first part. So let me tell you all about the first part, so then y'all know what it is that we are doing. So our first part of it is we're going to be talking about finances and relationships.
That can really go for not just those who are in the dating world, but that can go for across the board.
Yeah.
Because finances play a big part.
Well, marriages and if you're dating. So it's finances and relationship. And then that two-parter is the blending process. So we all grew up, well, not maybe all of us. Most of us grew up watching the Brady Bunch or some
never seen that show.
Reruns of the Brady. Really? Reruns of the Brady Bunch. He too young for that. Reruns. I was seeing the reruns of Brady Bunch, but reruns of the Brady Bunch where we saw Mike and Carol blending their families together. So we talked about a lot of people. Some people are either widowed or divorced, and they're getting married again. And it's like, so how do you blend those families together? So it's a two-parter, and then we will have our spiritual conversation right after that. So let's talk about this good old finances, money and relationship.
There's two things that tend to drive relationships to the point of the brink, and one of those things is money.
It is.
How do you handle money?
Well, it goes back to the key factors, what you just said. How do you handle money? Because I think what it is that very rarely you find in the relationship that you have two partners that both individuals handle money well. You either have a spender and a saver, or you got two spenders.
Two savers you never see because
because they save it. It's just it's rare. So when that is the case, you need to think about who's going to be the one who manages, who, as we say, has the good relationship with money. So who's going to be the one to oversee it? So when we talk about marriage, and then we'll talk about dating in a minute, but when we talk about marriage, who's going to be the overseer of the funds? Because it's like, and that doesn't mean that one person gets to make all the decisions. It's just that one person is responsible for ensuring that all the bills get paid. Right. And get paid on time, so that you have, good stewards of our finances, so we have good credit and all these other different pieces. So I think that's going to be key and important. But a lot of times, you have some individuals in marriages where that's the point of contention because sometimes it's like, well, some people think that's the man's job, and some people think that's the woman's job, and not understanding that it's really about who's the best fit.
Right. Because when I do marital counseling, everybody does money different, and everybody has different relationships with money. You have some people that believe in the one pot theory. Everybody just throw everything in one pot. We pay our bills, and whatever's left over, we decide on what we're going to do. Some people have the two pots theory, where I have my pot, you have your pot,
and then we got the household pot.
And then some people just have a two pot theory, where let me know what you need and we'll get it paid. So it's a matter of what works for each individual person and each individual family, because who wants to go into the house and the lights are not on, right?
Nobody. Or go in the refrigerator and there's nothing to eat.
Right.
Or how your car repossessed. It's those things that are key and important. But I think some of the things to really think about when we talk about money and relationships is having that communication, like you said, especially within this in the marriage and as you get ready in the dating process. So the marriage process, before you get married, in that counseling session, while you are dating, you all should have the money conversation.
I think that even couples need to have ongoing conversations, because where I was going with that is how each each couple deals with money, there should also be a financial plan. So you should have some kind of plan. And what is that plan? Is that plan? Some people use the 50-30-20 rule, where they use 50% of the money that comes in for living, and they save 30%, and then the 20% goes toward entertainment, trips, and things like that. So you have a plan, because if you don't have a plan, what happens is that you just going along and things come up, right? So if I know that I got to pay a light bill, then I know that I can't bet on the game, right?
Right.
Not that I would, but
right. But then we also, because we say the 50, 20-30 rule, but we also have to think about, there are many people out here right now with the inflation that make just enough money just to pay bills. And so that's a good conversation to have, because the people who are able to save, is phenomenal. But there's some people who they go to work literally just to pay bills.
So what do you think they do? And if they're a couple, what do you think?
Well, in a couple, I think is one of the things. Look at your spending. It's one of those things of one of my good friends, her and her husband. She's the saver, so she's the one that goes in and be like, okay, well let's renegotiate the cable. Let's renegotiate the car insurance. Let's renegotiate. Do we not do cable? Do we do streaming?
Gotta have cable.
We gotta
have cable.
Well, and then it's okay, well, do we bring down the internet prices and stuff like that? So it's finding different ways to cut corners. Are we cutting coupons? And I know people are okay, that's a lot of work. But if you want to be able to have a more meaningful and life piece, where if you are just working, what stuff is just to cover. And then it also could be, can you find you a new job?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to ultimately say that if you're not making enough, it's really tough to lock yourself in and not at least try to find a better paying job, right? Or a job that may offer some benefits, right? So if you get a job, for instance, that work from home, you're going to automatically, if you make more money, that's good, but you're also going to not be spending gas money.
Right. Well, you won't be spending gas money, you won't spend lunch money, because you're going to be eating at home. So it's it's some savings and stuff that's going to help you in the long run around those things. Also, just making sure if you have a large family, are you buying your groceries in bulk? So one of the things that, even though I don't have a large family anymore, my children are grown, but even now, me being a single person, what I have learned is that I still go to Sam's Club and get my paper towels and my tissue, because if I spend the $21 that it costs for me to get the tissue, that tissue lasts me for 3 months. So for 3 months, I don't have to worry about paying the $7 to $8 per 24 roll of tissue. And now I have enough rolls of tissue to last me for 3 months. I got enough paper towels to last me for 3 months. So it's helping me in my budgeting, because I'm not spending more. And that's the same thing when you vegetables, not so hard, easily to do, but definitely on the meat piece. Are you buying your meat in bulk? I used to buy just a piece of filet, and now I buy a whole filet of salmon, and I cut it up, and that's 3 meals. And then I freeze it. So it's some of those it's small things of doing it early on, where it lasts you longer. And then of course, some people I know don't like leftovers, but doing the leftover thing really does help. Or or if you're creative with the leftovers, you can make it into a new meal and people won't know.
It depends. I could do chili pastas, more or less barbecue, but a lot of things I don't. So when we talk about those two people, the spender and the saver, we know that that's going to cause a lot of stress on a relationship.
It does. Right?
So what would be advice for the spender and the saver to get along?
Well, I think it's compromise and having a happy medium, because it's going to be some things that
every time he spends or she spends, the other person's going to get mad.
Right. So that's why I say compromise. So it is, do you put your spending on a budget? And what I mean by put your spending on a budget is, if you have the ability where you're not just spending all your money on bills, is one of those things of thinking about, okay, so what I do is my tithing is a bill. My hairdo is a bill. So you're putting that stuff already in the budget, so you're not taking away from yourself. But then it's also, okay, honey, I know you like to shop, whichever honey that is, the male honey or the female honey. And it's like, okay, I know you like to shop. So, okay, then you allow once a month to get a purchase, but this is what our budget is for that. If you want more than that, then you keep saving.
Does that work though?
If you are
does that work like in practical application, right? Because you know how you go to the store, you be like, Nike.
Yeah, but then if you have, this is the thing too. So we talked about this early on. We talked about being equally yoked. Either the person's going to take on your persona or you're going to take on their persona. So if the saver's persona has taken over, you're going to think twice. You're going to still see the Nikes, y'all, but it's going to be like, okay, can I put those in layaway? Can I wait for that? Type of thing, or am I going to save toward that? And so it's one of those things, because as things are expensive, you know there's many times that I have been in the store and I'm like, do I really need this? Now my flesh is like, oh, I want this, and I'm like, Marquise, do you need that? And then I'm like, that's okay, and I walk away. And so, and I know everybody don't have the same discipline in me, and it took me years to get there. It took me years to get there because at some point I was in debt, some point it was a lot. But you start to build some of those things, and I'm not saying don't do anything, because people who work every day and don't get to do anything, that makes for miserable, and that makes people want to spend more money and put yourself more in debt. So it's one of those things too, to be conscientious of, like, have a small budget. If it's like, okay, a date night, having those regular things to put in there. See what are those low cost date nights you can do. See if once a month that you can put in where y'all can go out for dinner. It may not be the $100 restaurant, but it may be, you may go get some jerk chicken or something and sit at the jerk chicken place restaurant has something, but being a little bit more feasible about how you spending your money.
Yeah. So here's my advice to people who are partnering with somebody else and you have to combine your finances. The first thing I would say is get a plan. It's always good to sit down with somebody, a financial institution or a professional, and get a plan. What do I mean by that? A lot of times if people throw money into a savings account, and it's more readily available, then people tend to go back and get it. So I always believe in having at least 5 to 10% of the income go to a 401k or some type of vehicle where you literally don't see it on your paycheck.
Yep.
So it doesn't become part of the spending habit. The next thing that I recommend they do is they do sit down and get a budget, a realistic budget. And oftentimes for the spender and the saver, I recommend kind of the compromise, meaning that every month shouldn't be a splurge month, and you can compromise and do some savings. The other thing that I definitely recommend is in order to save, and I'm talking to myself here, is make it a adventure of looking up recipes and making recipes at home. Staying out of restaurants. Restaurants are high.
They are right now. They're very, very high.
And then with inflation being what it is, everything is high, right?
Yep.
So you can do more, make events at home more entertaining. And looking to save there, because if you think about it, if you save out on one restaurant visit, that could be $100, right? Right.
And then also think about, like, if you like to go to show, I know, go to the matinee. All matinees right now are for shows are 25% off. So if you go before 6 o'clock, you get 25% off your movie tickets. So you still get to go to the show, but you're not paying that high price. And then don't budget in if you can do your popcorn thing. If you can't, then you wait till you're after to do that. The other thing is there's some very low cost, like budget dates. Go for a walk, go to the zoo, go to the conservatory. There's all the nature museum. There's all these different things that you can do that are free, that are low cost to you, and you can have a really good time.
Especially if you're economically challenged, because when you're economically challenged, the truth is that you do have to survive. But it shouldn't be a case where you put survival over enjoying life, because one thing about this life, you don't get a minute of it back.
No, you don't.
So the main thing is that if you're in a relationship, to have a plan and to agree on a plan that you can agree on, and then have a plan to better yourselves. I can remember, when I had to make the decision to go back to school and get a degree, because I was kind of capped in on where I can grow from a career standpoint, and I said I wanted to go higher and do, have more earning potential. So I went to school. So it's things that people have to do. Sometimes you have to invest in yourself.
Yep.
Sometimes you may have to pick up a second, income, some kind of way. But the main thing is that you not destroy the relationship with the stress that comes from finances. And that's the big thing, that you go through them together. I can think back, and there's times when the most fun times that I've had were times when I was probably didn't have a lot of money. I think about those days. I think about the days when I had bought a brand new TV, and my daughter, I won't name which one, was looking at Barney and hugged the TV and broke my brand new TV that I couldn't afford, right? And so, even though back then it was traumatic to me, now I laugh at it. So it's more important to know that the most important things in life aren't things that we ought to be good stewards, like the Bible says. We got to be good stewards of our finances, which means that we trustworthy in our finances. If you make a credit agreement with somebody, pay it, right? You want to have integrity in how you do things. You also need, want to learn how to balance things, right? Because you can put some things on credit and pay, $100 a month for $5,000 worth of debt if you want to. I don't recommend paying off $100 a month. I'm just saying that'll be the minimum payment if you're pressed. So using credit wisely. So because you want to enjoy life, you don't want to have a case where the relationship is just simply around money, especially if it's lack of money.
Right, true. I mean, and so I know we talked a lot about like relationships and so forth, and I know we did it in the context of like marriage. So let's do it in the context of like you two single people and y'all dating, because that's different. When it's the marriage piece is I'm investing, you investing. When you're a single person, I'm not saying you're not invested, but you have to look at it. I ain't gonna say it a different way, because some people do look at it a different way, because a lot of times when you go out and you're dating someone, a lot of times we have a lot of what I call transactional relationships out here, where people are only like, okay, we're gonna go here, and they always pick the most expensive restaurant, and they want to spend $100 or throw $300 because you gotta have drinks and all this other stuff on there. And so people like, buy me this, take me on vacation, doing all these other things. And I think it's important that as you are in a dating process, and this is a person you want to date, you want to pursue and see where this leads to, if this leads to a long-term commitment, you really need to take a step back and think about and look at each person's financial situation and say, what is it that each of us is able to contribute? Because what I think is, I'm not saying that the man should not pay, but it's okay, ladies, that every once in a while that you can pay for dinner.
No.
You don't think so?
No. Well, it depends, right? So now we do know that we're in a day and age where women can be greater earners in the relationship, and I don't think that a man should have pride if his significant other makes more money than him and maybe even contribute to the household. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that when you make the decision to go out with your significant other, you ought to be taking them out. And I mean, come on, you ain't that broke.
This was like, no,
you ain't that broke. Now you ain't that broke. If you that broke, then go someplace you can afford, right?
Right, but this is what the only reason why
here you go in your pocket.
No. I'm not saying let the person take advantage of you. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is one of the things. Men like to know that somebody appreciates and values them too. And so I'm not saying that every time you go out, and I'm not saying you should be dropping hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but it's okay if y'all go to Starbucks and you be like, baby, I got the coffee.
Okay, Starbucks.
That's what I'm talking about. Or we go to, But
I am not going to be sitting up in Ruth Chris.
Oh no, that's not what I was saying.
She's going to open her purse and be like, put that purse down. No, I would not hit anybody. No, I'm just joking. But I was just joking. Okay.
But no, what I'm saying is, it's okay, ladies, to pay sometimes for some things, because you don't want the person to think that you only want a transactional relationship. So it's okay to reciprocate, because think about it. If you're taking him out for their birthday, he shouldn't be paying. It's those things that I'm saying. So that's why I say sometimes. I ain't say all the time, and I ain't say be taken advantage of, and I'm not saying for you to be the one that's always dodging out. But there are some things, there's some instances, if you go for coffee or you're going to go for ice cream, you can go ahead and you can pay for that. Or like I said, if it's that person's birthday, you want to treat them. Some people want to be feel appreciated, and and men don't want to be taken advantage of either. So they don't want nobody to think that, well, every time we go out, she don't never open her wallet. She don't even never say she gonna even open her wallet. And then even if he don't even let you pay, it's the fact that you have the heart.
No, I get you. I know, I totally understand, and some of that was in jest, but I'm just a little old fashioned, and I believe that if you are going to take the effort to go out, then it demands responsibility, unless he's unable to, right? Unable to, right? So if he's not working or something like that,
Right.
then that I could see that. But other than that, I would just think that it would be chivalrous for the man to make sure that, especially if they're dating, right? If they married, it don't matter because it's really his money anyway.
Right, it's both y'all
she
money.
paid with your money, right?
Exactly.
That's all that is. But if they're dating, then I think that I'm a big believer in romance, and I know that I can be old-fashioned, but I'm a big believer in some of those norms, like men showing respect and love, because what you start in a relationship is how you're going to end a relationship.
That is true.
So you want to make sure that, like, even with me, I probably shouldn't tell it on the air, but I believe that there are some times people should create situations to see how they significant other respond, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
because you want to look for red flags, right? Because
that
people
part.
oftentimes when they get together, they become what you want. So once you tell them, I'm looking for somebody like this and that can cook and this, that, and the other, they hate cooking, but they know you like cooking.
Yeah.
So now they cook because you like cooking. Whereas you want to get to know the authentic person, not the person who is overextending themselves, because it's going to come a time when what was cute ain't going to be cute anymore.
No, and I think that's too, and that's why I say it's important too, because over time they gonna want to know, do you have my back?
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I'm saying, I'm not saying ladies, you need to be breaking the bank. I'm not saying you need to be paying for all dates and so forth, but it's okay if you're going out for coffee, you're going out for ice cream, or you're going out for dessert or an icy or whatever it is that it's okay. It's okay to treat.
Absolutely.
Because like I said, men want to know that you're appreciated and they're appreciated and supported, but also they want to know that you're not always in it for what you can get out of it. Because it's like, what are you bringing to the table? And that's being your authentic self. Because some people like you, Bishop, one of your spiritual gifts is generosity. You like to give. So you have a significant other that also likes to give, then you cutting them off from being able to do that.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, I can understand it in some situations, but when we talk about specifically about dating, I just think that, in my opinion, that when the decision is made to go out, that the man just assumes the responsibility of taking his lady out on a date.
Yeah.
Not her going in her pocket and on a date. So I'm just thinking about more so in that environment, right? Because you're right. People have different love languages and they express them in different ways, and so there could be where the giver don't have the opportunity to give. But I just put high value, especially on dating. To me, the dating process is a couple things, and being a Christian, right? So I'm not necessarily a dating just to be dating person,
right? Dating with purpose.
Dating with purpose. I'm not doing the bachelor theory of things, right? That craziness and all that. That's not right. So I believe that if someone is engaged in a relationship, it ought to be for the ultimate purpose of being engaged and getting married, right? Mm-hmm. And so that being the case, you want to look for success indicators or failure indicators. Like I say, green flags, not just red flags, green flag. What are the green flags? Is that person loving? Is they supportive? If you fall, do they try to help you? Do they try to contribute to your well-being? Are they argumentative? Are they defensive? Right. So you have to learn that other person's attachment style. Right. We know there's 4 attachment styles, and 3 of them are can be unhealthy. But then you have a healthy attachment style. Right. So you have to learn that. One, I'll give away one secret is give somebody a budget and say you got X amount of dollars to get something. Right. Mm-hmm. Do they get what they want, or do they get as much as they can? That's a test, right? That's a test, right? Get what you want, right? What you want might even actually cost more. And you'd be like, hey, well, this ain't enough. But if that's what you want, or do you get as much as you can? Because then that speaks to that. It's not. I don't believe in things necessarily being good or bad. I just think that they are indicators, right?
Right. I mean, but it also too, you can see how a person in the dating process too is key when we talk about those red flags or green flags. How do they spend their money? How do they utilize their money? Are they good stewards with their money? Okay, so if you dating a person and they didn't pay all their bills and say, okay, babe, we only can do a low budget date because I had to pay all the bills. That's something that you can respect, because it's like, oh, okay, so he making sure that he financially sound, or she making sure she financially sound. Or is the person,
and being creative? What creativity comes out of that, right? Because you're going to have those tough times in life. Is that person, are they responsive or are they despondent, right? When they have a challenge, because life, you are going to have challenges. And so you want to make sure that your mate is a person that is going to respond and not get despondent. Yeah, we all have our moments, right?
Right.
But not get despondent when we don't have enough. So guess what? I can barbecue. So I go get some barbecue, we barbecue, we make a date up, you know what I mean?
Right.
Things like that. How do they respond in those instances?
Right. How to be creative and stuff. So like I said, we're going out to dinner, baby. I'm gonna cook you this fabulous meal.
Right. I'm gonna cook. Right. I'm gonna cook and and make it something romantic. You don't need like Eddie Murphy say, you don't need to go to McDonald's. I'm gonna make you a burger better than McDonald's, right? Put the green peppers and all that stuff in there, right? So you want to see how the thing is to see how does your significant other respond in certain situations. Of course, it's not about game playing or gamesmanship or things like that, but you just want to know how do they respond, right? Because sometimes you have some people who will literally watch you starve to death. They will. I mean, but do you want somebody who's going to be supportive, right? Somebody who is going to be sharing, be caring, somebody who affirms their love, right? So does the person affirm their love? And not everybody has the same love language. I get it, but do you get hugs? Do you get hugs and told I love you? And are they open for expressing their emotions, right?
True. And then can you have good communication? Because one of the things that I say to people all the time that is key and important, that you can have the best relationship, but if you can't talk to them, and I mean talk to them, and we always say you need to see the person in the all 4 seasons. Absolutely. But how are they when they're angry? How are they when they're depressed? How are they when they're sad? How are they when they're joyful? How are they when they got money, when they don't got money? How are they when stress is happening on their jobs or situations? How are they in grief? All those things are key and important, because it helps to let you know who they are, how they're going to respond. But then also they sometimes it's testing you to see how you respond.
All right. Absolutely. I was going to say that.
And it's one of those things too. Are you going to be that person to support them? Because, as Bishop says, a lot of times you start dating and your representative starts showing, for the first, at least for the first 3 months. Because after the first 3 months, it's really hard to keep it up. And so if you are consistent, then the person knows, okay, I can trust you with this. Okay, we can have communication. You consistently got my back. You consistently supported my goals. And that's the other thing.
And we enjoy talking to each other all the time. You can have conversations about things and not necessarily have to be entertained by the other person. So the other person isn't. What I often tell people is that people are not possessions. And so one of the first mistakes people make when they get in a relationship is they say, you're my man or my woman. People aren't possessions, right? You're choosing to share your life with somebody else. Right. And that's quite different than somebody being a possession, because what you find out is when you start treating people like possessions, that's when things start to deteriorate, right? So you ever seen people, they've been going together for 50 years, right? They get married on that 51st year. By the 52nd year, they divorce, right? Why? Because when you get married, you infer things from your childhood, right? From the marriages that you've seen.
Yep, you sure do.
Right? And so that works into it. So I often say, I know it's gross to think about, and it's only for analogy purposes, but I often say, with your mom and my dad make a good couple, because that's who we're going to be. I know it's weird. I know I just weirded somebody out.
But I think it's key and important, that communication piece and talking. But then also too, even when we talk about finances, what are their goals? Right. Because it could be financially. Like I know right now, one of my cousins, she's engaged, she's getting married, and so she was dating her boyfriend for a few years, and all of a sudden he just started saying, "Oh, we can't go out to dinner. We can't do this, do this." And she was looking at him. She was like, "What is wrong with you? What are you doing with your money?" Well, of course, he was saving to get her the engagement ring.
Okay.
She didn't know that at the time.
So cool.
And so now we laugh about it because she was like, 6 months ago, I was just like, what is wrong with him? Like, we don't go out no more. Like, what do you do? But he wouldn't tell her why he wasn't. But it was like it was value enough for him to say, okay, I need to cut back over here so that we can have this over here. And so it's one of those things with communication, but also like goals. She got to see what type of man he was because of the fact that he knew that in order to do this, he had to take care of some areas over here. And so it's watching those small incremental pieces, but also what are their goals? Because like you said, like I went back to school when I was married. I went back to school in the middle of the marriage. And so it was a financial strain for a little bit. So it's like, okay, you have that conversation and say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. This is what I'm going to have to pay for. This is how we're going to have to work this out. Is this feasible for us right now in this moment of our life? But it was like, okay, yeah, this is your goal. This is your dream. We're going to go ahead and let you do this thing. Okay. And we'll have to do what we need to do to make it work. But it's those things. Are you supportive of that person's dreams and goals? And what are their financial goals? So if they are in debt, are you willing to help them to figure out a way to get out? Or are they working on a plan to get out of debt, to have better spending and saving habits and so forth? Because all those things are key, because where somebody is financially right now won't be where they are 3 years from now if they're growing and have a plan to what it is they want to do. Now, some people, if they don't have a plan and they're not growing, they don't have goals, they could be in the same financial situation.
And what about the reverse situation? Because we do have some of our older viewers. Some people we're in a situation where they're working and now they're retired, living on a fixed income. So that can be a strain on a relationship too, trying to get accustomed to the new income. And again, that's where that financial advisor will come in. I ain't got money for a financial advisor, but if you get a plan to deal with things and address them, do you look for housing that might be based on your income? Do you, what things can you do? Can you get a second job where you might work a couple, without violating the terms of your retirement? So all of those things are stressful. Have you ever noticed that in life it's kind of like we live life in phases? You know, like a little kid, then grammar school, high school, first getting married, starting to have kids, and it's always phases, and those phases tend to go in years of 7, right? And so we want to make sure that we have a plan to be able to get us to our next phase. And then what does that next phase look like? Like I'm in my 50s, I'll be 57 in about a month, right?
Yeah.
Whew, gosh, that sounds rough to say. But now I'm starting to think in terms of what happens when I retire. But here's what the good Lord told me. He said, you got to run through the tape. You can't be focused so much on retirement that you're not focusing on today. Right. Because there's a lot of good and productive work you can do today. And sometimes that's how we are. We're so far in the future that we're not no good today, right? And so those financial decisions are today. The choices we make today is going to impact that. So we can't worry about that. We just have to manage this. Yeah. Does that make sense?
True. But like they always say, when you focus on the past, that puts you in a place of depression. When you focus too much on the future, that puts you in a place of anxiety. Exactly. So if you want to be in the place of joy, you need to focus on the present and then do little pieces along the way to help you to get toward the future. Because the truth of the matter is, the only thing you can do with the past is learn from it.
That's it.
You can't go back and change a thing. You can change some things that you did in the past for your present to make sure that your future is better. But if you still worried about what happened 10 years ago, or if that's still that thing, or I made that mistake, you got to forgive yourself and move on, because it does not suit you well to keep having that worry over what you did or what you should have, could have, would have did.
And the one thing that I can say is that sometimes people get Christianity a little confused. Everybody make mistakes.
Yes.
There's few people who are they best reflect themselves all the time, right? And so what we have to do is we have to have a strong enough relationship with God to realize that God is God and we ain't God.
Hello.
We not God. We have our moments. We have our right? As I often say, that when people sin, we point our finger at them, but we know that sin lies around. I always called it, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, anxious.
Yep.
That's when we become real vulnerable as humans. I don't care who you are. You can be saved, love the Lord, right? David, he became vulnerable when he was lonely with Bathsheba, right? You see that Esau sold his birthright because he was hungry. Right. So when you get those hungry, angry, lonely, tired moments of time, we need to spiritually, be aware of our vulnerability, right? And to know ourselves, and then to rely on the guidance of the Holy Spirit to lead us through those moments, right? Exactly. And that's how we get through that. But at the same time, we have to learn that we cannot beat ourselves up over something that has happened.
Right.
That's why God allows us repentance. He okay, say you're sorry and let's move on. Leave it over there.
And that's why he tells us to cast our cares before him and lay it at his feet. And we sometimes lay it at his feet, and then before we get up from laying it at his feet, we pick it right back up. Right. So it's lay it at his feet and leave it there.
The devotion of the day, it was on forgiveness.
Yes, actually. It was.
Yeah, it was on forgiveness. And I thought that was a big, I got a lot from that. Because if you think as far as the East is from the West, that ain't Chicago.
Oh, no.
That's not the state, right?
That's California to New York.
I'm thinking when
Maine, if you think about it.
I'm thinking the Lord is saying he's throwing it as far as the beginning of the time is away from the end of time. It's gone, right? Because that's how God is. He's not focused on our past. He's focused on our future and who we are as saints. And I think that's important for us to know. We have got to accept the fact that we're not perfect.
No, and we're going to make mistakes. And the key factor of looking at life instead of always keep beating yourself up, taking that step back, because when the devotion we read today was about forgiveness, but it also talks about forgiving others, but also forgiving yourself. Forgiving others too. And so it's one of those things is, okay, yeah, you didn't do right with your finances. Okay, so how do you your prayer is, God, help me to be a better financial steward. Help me to be more disciplined in my finances. And then you'll start to see those different things come along the way to help you to be able to be that.
And become a student of. I always believe that, we often think that we have mentors, that we have to have somebody who's physically there. Well, sometimes you don't have that luxury. So what I have done in the past is I went out and got myself what I call virtual mentors. I listen to people like, Dr. Stanley. I listen to people like, I love Creflo. I know some people can't take Pallet Creflo. I like Creflo, right? I like Joel Osteen. A lot of people don't like Joel, but I believe there's room for that type of Christianity that does allow us to be motivational. I hear some people be like, I'm not a motivational speaker. Well, Jesus was quite motivational.
Yeah, he did. He inspired so many others and motivated them to make a life change.
Right. Everything can't be do it or you're going to get dipped in Crisco. Right. I'm like, that's called a dysfunctional relationship, right?
And that's
the only reason I'm doing things is because I'm worried about the retribution from the other person. That's not love. And God loves us.
Right. That's possession.
Right. God loves us. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. We have to realize that the way we get more like God is getting closer to him, not further from him.
Exactly.
He who abides under the shadow.
Oh, the Almighty.
Shadow, right. And that's what I want to be. I want to be under the shadow. And then by that, I begin to take on his nature and his thought process, and his word becomes important to me. Not, you're going to do it or you're going to hell. Well, that only lasts.
I mean, think about it. When you chastise your children, and you think about it, when you tell them, okay, don't do this, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna do the thing you tell them not to do. So it's the thing of, but when it's a loving, compassionate relationship, it's like, Johnny, I don't want you to do X, Y, and Z because this can harm you. Mm-hmm. Then it's like, oh, they care about me.
Absolutely.
So they're not just telling me to do this because they don't want me to have fun or want me to live my life. Oh, this is a safety issue. Or down the long time, this could have a long-term effect.
Exactly. Jesus said, if you love me, right? He said the motivation should not be fear, right? Although sometimes we talk about fear, we talk about the word reverence, but that's another subject for another day. He said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. Why? Because love motivates us to action, right?
Exactly.
If you have a significant other and they know that you love roses, they're probably going to do what?
Bring you roses.
Bring you roses, right? Because they know that you like that. When you love somebody, you tend to do things that contribute to that love. And that's the same way in the spiritual realm, right? So we love the Lord. I don't want to be disobedient and hard-headed. I want to do what's pleasing to God, right? because God is good. Oh
Yes,
man,
he
if I
is.
can testify just this week of what God did done for
All right,
me.
go ahead.
No, I can't do it on camera.
Oh, you can't do it on tape. Okay.
Woo! All I got to say is God is awesome.
He is
God
awesome.
is
God
awesome.
is awesome, y'all.
He is awesome. Like you could be literally worried about something and he will literally wipe it off of the table as you are worrying. And you'd be like, what? What? God, God is just awesome. I mean, yeah, I could just go over and over and over about how God has done things. You know, for the longest time we were trying to save for a church, and God blessed us with a church family that basically, you know, blessed us with.
But I told Bishop that we was gonna get a church and we wasn't gonna have no mortgage.
Well, thank God for that. And you know, I just see God just doing just great things, and not only that, He's enabling us to reach into the lives of people and empower and help them. That's what ministry is for me. It's not just standing behind a pulpit barking out a sermon. It's actually seeing people's life change and develop for the best because they have facilitated a relationship with God. That's who I am, right?
Yeah.
You know, fire and brimstone sometimes, right? It's tight, but it's right. But I'm more or less. Christ's ministry was about ministering to people and helping them become better people. If you think about it, you know, he got in trouble for hanging out with them. Like Thomas probably shouldn't have been a disciple if anybody other than Jesus was his pastor, right?
I know.
Because he doubted everything.
He
you know,
did.
Matthew, he basically was a juice man. You know, I mean, if you look at the disciples, they did not fit the description of people who's going to lead a worldwide spiritual revolution.
But they did. But that gives us hope to know that it's hope for us, because even in all of our dirty mess and even all of our fleshy ways and sinful nature, God still loves us and still is there for us and will still guide us and lead us along the way to us to be drawn closer to Him.
But the whole thing is you got to love Him.
You do.
So this blended family thing, how do we? Because we got a few minutes here. And that's why we paused a couple things, because on this we say we're gonna talk about money and blended families.
Okay.
Blended families.
This blended family thing.
When people come into the relationship with children, right? They could be grown children.
They could be grown children or little people.
Now, what if they're married before and they have stepchildren?
That's still blended family.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, it also depends on a couple of things. You know, as I was growing up, it's one thing my grandmother taught me before she passed away. She never liked the word step. Yeah. Because she said that they're children, they're part of the family, they're your kids. Yeah. Period. She said you're gonna have to feed them, love them, care for them, put clothes on their back, chastise them. They're your kids. They're your kids. So so you have to understand, when people come in a relationship, even if they were married before and they have, you know, bonus children, they're still your children. So it's like, how do you start to do that? And I think it's hard because sometimes when they're little, you know, it's okay. It's easier, yeah. It is a little bit easier when they're little because they can kind of blend in because they just like, oh, okay, this person's there. I think it's harder when you have adult children to blend. Absolutely. Because they see, this is my mother, this was my father. And that's our boy. Right. Oh, that's our girl. Oh, that's our girl. And this random person, random person that came in because you've only seen them with. I only see my mom with my daddy, and now they got this new person in their life, and I don't know how I feel about that. And it's one of those things where I think, you don't get a feeling. I know. Yeah, you don't get a feeling. You know, if you don't know, you don't get a feeling. That's between them two adults that are having a relationship. That part. And children, you can feel things, but you don't have an opinion in that, right? Yeah, and I think it's important that as the parents in the relationship, that you make that known, especially when you have adult children. Mm-hmm. When you have adult children, you kind of got to sit them down and be like, "This is my life." And it's strange because they want to become the adults to tell you what you can do. And then my thought is this: like, before you started dating X, Y, and Z, did you ask me one time, could you date them? Thank you. I met them well after you all were going together, right? So what makes you think in your mind? What logic in your mind are you processing? Do you think that I am going to get permission from my child to be in a relationship? Exactly. Or that is insane. And then they're like, oh, we want to get to know them. Okay, in due time and due season. Everything is in due season and in order. Yeah. I need to get to know them and know, like, Do I want them around and so forth? Is this the right fit? Is the right person for me before I start blending everybody else in? And then also you have to do it in phases, because you also need to know, because knowing who your children are, you probably can't bring them around all. I have 4. You probably can't bring around all 4 of them at the same time, because they like to gang up on people and be like asking 50,000 questions. And you don't want the person to be ran off, but
funny.
but you need to know your children. So it's one of those things with the blending process. Is the first being very open and honest with your children,
Boundaries.
and let them know boundaries and say, hey, this is my relationship. You don't really get to comment on it. Okay? And then 2, you have to remind them, these are your main concerns. Are they respectful? And are they respectful toward me, and they're not harming me? If they're not doing those things, mind your business.
And I would say this, and I would also say this as well, but that's for my potential, like, when I get there or there, whatever.
Right.
The same way, I'm going to want them to have a decent relationship with my children too, at the same time, because it's different for adults than children, because what makes any relationship is having some type of history. So having events and having spent time together. So knowing that initially when you start dating, that there's this void, especially if they're grown, right? The only frame of reference they have is you with your other significant other, married person, or who's ever out there. So you have to understand that, and understand where they're coming from, and respect it. That's where their frame of reference is. So when I say things like they don't get an opinion in it, I'm talking about internally inside of you. You have to set the boundaries that, that when it's time for you to start dating, how you're going to date, what that path to dating is going to be. Right. But understand it at the same time. So if you have a case where, like in my case, my children are mourning, so I'm respectful to the fact that they're mourning, but they're going through their experience and I'm going through my experience.
And it doesn't necessarily look like yours. And then the other piece I think of it is too, even in my own case with my children, is like, I keep saying, you got to give it time. Right. And they're looking at me like, but you have to give it time. You have to give the person time to warm up to you and be ready to engage in that way. You can't be overbearing. You can't ask 50,000 questions. You kind of be in space, and then you have to allow them to be in spaces that are comfortable for them. Because if you push it, you can push a person to the point where they don't want to be in the space. So I think that's key and important. And then the other piece of it is understanding, like, well, what does this look like? Because sometimes we as parents and we as people have the expectation where we want to be like the Brady Bunch. Right. But we also know when we're watching the Brady, it took time for the Brady Bunch to become the Brady Bunch, because they used to look at each other as like, I'm not. The siblings, the parents were okay, but the siblings used to fight all the time and have all these disagreements and stuff behind their parents' back, and they didn't know.
And I would imagine that is the toughest family to blend, when you both have like adolescent and teenage and adolescent children that you're trying to bring together. My goodness, I can imagine that can be a challenge. But I would say the way that you do that again is by the same way you do in work environments, right? You do team building things, do things that's going to be and have common trips. And when you go away somewhere and you don't know anybody else but that other person, you can bond a little bit better, because the only person I know is you. So hey, we walk into the store together. And you encourage them to foster their own relationships without trying to push them together.
And then the other thing is too, and in my case, one of the things that I've done with my own children is for them have an open mind, because they have. My 4 children come together and said they got this pact. It's the 4 of them and nobody else. They started this a long time ago, and I explained to them, I said, I get that. I said, but life is going to change. And I said, I'm not saying that you're going to be like best buds. I said, but you have to be able to let your guard down enough to allow somebody that if they want to be in, to try to be in.
And I think it's also just the thing about respect too, because I am a product of a blended family. My mother had 7 kids, and my father passed when I was 2, and so my dad, he came along when because we didn't believe in steps either. That was my dad. I had my father and my dad, and so my dad he came along and he raised 7 children, and you would not have known those were not his biological children. Like all of us, like love them, and I think that's because you have that respect factor, and you have you each person is developing their own relationship, and so when you have children in that scenario, the biggest thing is to set some boundaries around respect, right? So it won't be just anything going on. It's tough when you have adult children, though.
I know, and it was interesting because like even with I had my dad, and then I had my father as well, and it was interesting. My dad and I like this. I actually was closer to my dad than I am to my father, which sometimes we laugh about. But it's one of those things where I realized a long time ago that my dad never pushed, and he always kept saying, "This is my bonus." Everywhere we go, "This is my bonus daughter. This is my bonus daughter." And me and my bonus sisters have become really, really close. But I think
you all were adults.
We were all adults. Well, we knew each other when we were children, and then we went years of not seeing each other, and then we kind of was able to be right back together. And then my youngest bonus sister didn't really know her at all. And the interesting part of it, what I've come to find out was, that's why I said the open piece. If you allow yourself to be open, when we first got introduced, we hit it off right away. And it was just like we had been sisters our whole entire lives. But we were both open to seeing, because she was scared, I was scared, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Okay, we'll see. But Dad kept saying, "Oh, y'all gonna get along great. Y'all gonna get along great." And I was like, if you
but you had to develop your own relationship.
But we had to develop our own relationship, and that took time. But it was also us both being open, physically being open to allow somebody in the space, but emotionally being open to say, okay, you don't take away from, I already had two other sisters. Right. So it didn't take away from the relationship that I had from my other 2 sisters to bring in the other 2 sisters into my life. And then it became this joy to hang out with them, spend time with them, and do stuff, and call them, and go out to dinner and movies and all that stuff.
More people to enjoy life
and now I have more people to enjoy life with.
Awesome.
And so it's those things. That's what I said. So you have to be open physically, mentally, and emotionally to allow people in just to see.
Yeah, so like you said, you got to build some time. So got about 3 minutes to go. Wow, where does the time go? Where does the time go? All I know is that it looks like Justin Fields is going to Atlanta, right? So it looks like he's going to Atlanta. The Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. So
I like
the Justin.
Y'all be ready for when Justin goes to the Super Bowl.
Mark
my words.
Next year.
He goes to the Super Bowl. Y'all gonna make the biggest mistake.
But Caleb Williams, from everybody I'm hearing, is the real deal. They like
but that's the thing. He is. But Justin has amazing talent too. It's not about the talent. It's the coaching, it's the plays, it's the treatment of the player and allowing them to be themselves. So if you don't open that atmosphere up, then I don't care if you bring in the creme de la creme.
Yeah.
If you keep doing stuff the way y'all been doing stuff, it's gonna be the same.
It's gonna be, and that's my worry, no matter who the Bears draft, because I believe that they're doing this strictly for money.
They don't want to pay Justin
a big contract, and they want to go get more pieces and have a quarterback that's real similar to Justin. Is what I believe at the end of the day. I think believe it's all about money.
Yeah, it is. So that
was our football. About the White Sox moving down to the new 78 if they build it. I love that idea. I say put the Bears down there too. Build this big community around them, and then have a field. Can they share the same field? I'm wondering.
I don't know.
And put a dome on it. And could you imagine that right on Roosevelt Road and Clark?
That would be nice. It'd be easier. Nice. If it won't be as congested. It'd be easy to get to.
All 5 of the trains, all 5 of the trains go there. Oh, I think that was awesome. I think that's the best idea.
Yep.
Do it.
And also, as we talk about basketball, so just know that there's some great games that's happening tonight. The Lakers are playing the Nuggets. The Nuggets is looking really good,
Yeah,
y'all. I watched
yeah.
them last night. We also know Milwaukee is playing tonight. Giannis will be playing. So y'all keep up with what's happening on there. We still got a little ways to go before we get to the playoffs and figure out who's going to be in the
Bulls
finals.
won't be there.
So we know Bulls won't be there.
We got about 15 seconds to go. So we wanted to thank you all for joining us today. I'm Bishop Sherman Henderson. We would like for you to join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. at Revival in the Land.
And I am Evangelist Marquise Holyfield, and it's been a pleasure as always to have you with us on this Saturday morning. And as we always say, don't meet us at the church, beat us there. And thank you for spending the day with us.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, and iNetworks Communication Station.